It's me, Danielle J. Mitchell, your up-and-coming queen of real estate, and I'm here for another episode of Tuesday Tip at 2. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. It is me, Danielle J. Mitchell, your up-and-coming queen of real estate, and I'm here for today's and this week's Tuesday Tip at 2. As you notice, some changes. We're always trying to improve, do better, upgrade, and all those good things. Thank you to my new subscribers. I always got to give a shout out to you at the top of the morning. Is it the morning? Or at the top of this? At the top of this video, I have to give you a shout out. I have to let you know that I appreciate you, and I need you to continue to stay tuned for more and more content that continues to come out, and stay tuned for, some of the changes that you're going to see pop up and pop around and all that good stuff. I need you to do what it says up here every time. I need you to do it. Okay. I need you to like. If you have not subscribed, if you just stumbled across this video, I need you to subscribe. Not only do I need you to subscribe, but I need you to click the all notifications, because I do shorts, upload little funny things, and of course I upload informative things. But even with my funny stuff, it's always informative. Okay. So moving on. The series that I'm calling it, I was calling it a series. What to look for as it pertains to the different steps in real estate. Let's get into it. Number one, similarly to what I talked about last week, or the start of the series, what to look for. I talked about what to look for during not a home inspection, but during a house tour. A lot of this is going to be kind of familiar if you saw that. If you did not see that, then look for the notification for that particular video, because it's very informative and it's very similar to what we're going to talk about anyway, right? First thing that a home inspector, when they come, they are going to be looking at the grounds and exterior. What are they checking for? They're going to examine the overall condition, look for any water sitting there, water going into places that it shouldn't, any leaks, the integrity of the foundation, the siding, the painting, landscaping from the standpoint of if you have like trees and it's starting to the roots are starting to go into the sidewalk and uproot. Is it uproot the sidewalk? But bring up the sidewalk. If it's starting to bring up the sidewalk, doing different things that it should not be doing, damage to the deck, damage to the garage, to the patio, to the stairs, if you have like steps or something like that, making sure the railings are good. Railings are a big deal. And inspectors, because they've been around, many of them have experience and they kind of understand the home process and what you're looking for. A lot of the experienced ones will let you know, hey, may have to get replaced by an appraiser. So they're not an appraiser, but they understand from being in the business, just like I'm not an inspector, but understand when you have these intersecting professions. If you have this kind of loan, an FHA loan, or I know if you have a conventional loan, this may not be a big deal. If you have an FHA loan, just FYI, this may come up again. Driveway, they'll let you know if you have one. If that particular property have one, they'll let you know. They're looking for cracks. They're looking for holes. They're looking for anything that's going to mess with the foundation. They're looking at your chimney. If there's a chimney on the property, a huge thing that happens in Philadelphia is that there's no chimney cap. Just about no home. Just none of them have chimney caps, right? Chimney caps, make sure nothing goes into the chimney and stuff like that. So it's always funny because that's always the number one thing. No chimney cap. They're making sure that chimney is not leaning, that it's not falling apart, that it's not crumbling, right? So they're checking for all those different things as it pertains to the exterior. Number two, your roof, your windows, and your doors. Your roof. They're making sure now, depending on what inspection company that you use, they may use a drone as opposed to get up on a ladder and actually look at the roof. especially if it's a pitched roof, right? Meaning that it has some. So of course, making sure that the roof doesn't have cracks. If it's a flat roof, making sure there's no cracking in there. The ceiling is good, or this roof is about to fall in. They can let you know what's going on. Windows, they're looking at the windows. They're going to be inspecting the windows probably, from the outside, as well as when they get inside the property. They're going to, check it, make sure it locks, unlocks, all that other stuff. Let you know if they're old, if they're in good condition, let you know if they're newer. And also, if you have a decent inspector, we'll give you tips. Make sure, one of the great tips that I always hear during inspections is that you need to keep your windows locked. As warping can happen, change of weather, all that other stuff. Breaking the seal can happen, water can get into it, all this other stuff can happen. So you want to make sure you're keeping it locked so it doesn't warp, so it doesn't, now it can't even fit into the lock anymore. So those are some great tips for that. But they're just making sure that they're operating properly, that they're working well, right? The doors, making sure, again, same thing, they're working properly. Nothing's missing, nothing's awry. With the doors, they can close, they can lock. Number 3, the attic. A lot of times attics are often overlooked, but even if you have a crawl space attic, it's important for them to pop their head in, right? Usually crawl space attics are not enough where you can actually stand up in there, but it's enough where you can pop your head in, see, take some pictures, and just make sure everything's okay. But a lot of times it's insulation in there, so you want to make sure that you have the appropriate insulation. It's not, fraying and looking old and pretty much look like it's not doing its job. You want to make sure it's proper ventilation, and usually some kind of vents up there, even if whether it's an attic that you're using or you're not using, and making sure there's no structural damage. You may not see something on the outside of the property as far as the roof, right? But then when you go up in the attic, you're maybe able to see some things that maybe the shingles are covering. Sure, there's no structural damage, no improper ventilation and exhaust, and making sure that the plumbing pipes are okay. If you have plumbing that goes up there, making sure your HVAC are okay if it goes up there. Let's talk about basements. And you can also have a crawl space and a basement. Okay. So moving at the opposite end of the house, you have your basements. A lot of time basements is the most time that an inspector is going to spend on the inspection. That is the most time. It has so many things. We're going to walk through some of the things that it has in there. But of course, it has your most, now, unless you're living in an area where your HVAC, or at the very least, maybe your electric panel, which happens, is in the garage. Okay. Because it's an attached garage, and then they have the electrical panel in there. You're going to find that your HVAC is in the basement. You're going to find your electrical panel is in the basement. And of course, the basement is part of the foundation. So you're going to be checking that foundation. So let's get into it. As far as the foundation is what you're checking on, you're checking for the structural components. You're checking for any insulation, if applicable. You're looking at the joists. That's a huge thing. You're looking at the joists. You're seeing if there are termites in there, right? And of course, I talked about this last week. The basement may be finished, but you're just looking at all the components. If it is finished, you're looking for water leaking on the sheetrock. You're looking for just anything that is not looking how it's supposed to be. Okay. Interior rooms. Interior rooms, you're really just checking the outlets. You're just checking the outlets, making sure the outlets are working properly. If there's a fan, making sure that's working properly. If the ceilings doesn't have any leaks or anything, or any residue of a leak, because sometimes you can have staining from water staining, especially on the second floor. Making sure, and maybe you don't have an attic. You want to make sure that it's no leaks, or you do have an attic and maybe it's a leak coming in from the attic. Making sure it's no leaks, no cracks, nothing that look like it's coming all the way from the foundation, or no leaning. That's a huge thing. You don't want to look like it's leaning, swaying, anything like that. You just want to make sure that the trim is proper. You want to make sure the outlets. You want to make sure that if there is HVAC, that the room is getting the appropriate amounts of central air or heating. Those things you're definitely checking for. No chip paint. That's never a good thing because it could be assumed that it's lead. Number 6, kitchen. The kitchen is pretty much your outlets. They do check appliances just to make sure that they're functioning. No leaks in the plumbing, right? So they're going to turn all the water on. They also do this with the bathroom, which is going to be next. Turn all the water on, make sure there's no leaks, make sure nothing's backing up into the sink. None of that. Next thing, bathroom, same thing. We can just couple this together. 6 and 7. Kitchen and bathroom, same thing. Checking all the outlets, checking all the light fixtures, the water and the water pressure, checking on the plumbing, making sure there's no leaks. Doing all these different things to make sure it's working properly, making sure the toilet works, making sure the sink works, the tub, the shower, caulking, no mold, all those different things and making sure is good. Okay. Number 8, major systems, electrical, plumbing, all that good stuff. As I talked about before, and this is the last one, a lot of times these things are in the basement. Okay. So of course, plumbing is throughout, electrical is throughout. So like I said, with the other ones is that they're going to be checking outlets. They're going to be checking, light fixtures, all those different things. But of course, the electrical panel is a big deal to look at. So they remove just the panel, the top part. They take their little screwdriver, they remove it. And then, as I always like to say, anytime I'm on a home inspection, when they remove that panel, I want to see just beauty. Beauty. What does that mean? I want to see nice, clean wires going into the proper place, looking neat. If it's labeled, isn't that wonderful? It's labeled. I don't see old wire, dead wire, no mixture of knob and tube. That's terrible. That's a big no. No double tapping, right? So that's meaning putting more than one wire into the circuit breaker, doing all kinds of stuff. My eye, I could tell when it's looking right. Doing these things long enough and hearing these things long enough, you get the idea. I don't know everything, but what I do know is what a proper electrical panel is supposed to look like. That's what I do know. They'll let you know if it's newer. They'll let you know how much amperage it is. They'll let you know just a lot of information that is helpful to you. Okay. And then you have, of course, your plumbing. And the basement is your main stuff, your sewage, and that's where everything is being collected. So they're making sure it's the proper piping, it's newer, usually PCV, whatever that thing is. You know what I'm talking about. Making sure that type of plumbing and piping is in there. Okay. Making sure it's in there, making sure that everything is going well. There's no leaks coming from anything, no pipes. With the electrical panel, making sure that it's grounded. That's a huge thing sometimes because people don't make sure that their electrical panel is grounded. It has to be. If there is a sink next to the electrical panel, that it is a GFCI, GC, you know what I'm talking about. That is pretty much an outlet that has a breaker on it, and a lot of you will see them in your kitchens or in your bathrooms. And anytime you're around water, you have to have that kind of outlet so that if water just so happens to get on that outlet, it'll trip, right? And you won't burn your house down. We don't want to do that. So all these things go into checking out the basement and any major systems such as your HVAC, cooling and heating, making sure that's good, making sure it's operable and stuff like that. What an inspection is not. They're not checking for the decor. They're not looking at the furniture. Is it broke? Is it fixed? They're not looking at how many plants you have or how many plants are missing. Typically, depending on the size of the shed, I don't believe they expect that unless it's the kind of, sheds nowadays, they have HVAC and mini splits and heating and cooling and electrical. I don't know. So they might check those kinds of sheds, but otherwise, unless the shed is just falling apart, they're not fussing with them. So yeah, I always say, hey, inspectors check from the rooter to the tutor. Definitely check to make sure it's no termites. And even if you have a deck or something like that, making sure there's no termites there as well. That is all. Okay, guys. That is all. This is a long one, a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but this is needed and helpful information. Okay. So listen, if you are interested in buying or selling your property, I need you to go down here. There it is. I need you to go to book.djmrealtyco.com. Again, that is book.djmrealtyco.com and schedule a consultation. The market has slowed down some, but that is absolutely helpful for buyers. But it is still, people are still selling their homes. It's just that they're not selling it in 2.5 seconds. It may take, it may take a week or two to sell your property. But for the most part, if it's a decent property, if it's priced right, it's going to sell. And most importantly, not even if it's a decent property, if it's priced right, it's going to sell. So you'll be fine. And most importantly, not even if it's a decent property, if it's priced right, it's going to sell. So you'll be fine. So, rates are dropping for buyers, which is great. So that is all for today's and this week's Tuesday Tip or Two. Listen, remember, it's no place like home, no place like home buying, and I'll see you next time. And listen, please comment, give me feedback on the new digs, the new little things that I'm doing. Let me know if you like it. Okay, bye. Whatever that means. Whatever that means, guys. You know what I'm saying.